This is every single fight to make after UFC Vegas 47, Hermansson versus Strickland. I've got all of the key fighters from that card on the screen right now. Some winners, some losers, and you may notice there is an empty box next to all of them, and that's where their next opponent's going to go, who I have hidden around the perimeter of the screen. I'll reveal that next opponent one by one and place them where they belong on the screen as the video goes on. Let's start straight away with the main event. Strickland versus Hermansson. Sean Strickland gets a big win over the 5 rounds by unanimous decision. Well, it wasn't a unanimous decision, it was a split decision, but I thought he won the fight very clearly. I have no idea what Saudi Amato was watching to give that fight to Jack Hermansson, but Sean Strickland won that fight very clearly in my opinion, either 4 rounds to 1, or at best for Hermansson 3 rounds to 2 for Sean Strickland, and I think he's got a very, very difficult situation on his hands right now because he called for a title shot. He's not going to get a title shot. Hot take, I know. He's not going to get a title shot over the winner of Cannonier versus Brunson, unless I've just jinxed it to where Cannonier and Brunson's going to end in a draw, and they're going to have to make a rematch, and Adesanya beats Whittaker and Strickland just gets a title shot anyway. That'd be a perfect situation for him. I just don't think that's going to happen next. I also don't believe that he's going to get a fight with Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori was talking to the UFC brass about a month ago about what he was going to do next, and who his next opponent was going to be. I don't reckon they were going to put him against Sean Strickland anyway. They're training partners. They wouldn't like to take each other on in ideal circumstances anyway. And also, Vettori's looking to get back in there soon. I can see Vettori turning around for May, maybe April. I don't see Strickland turning around that fast. I reckon Sean Strickland's looking at the loser of Marvin Vettori's last bout, Paulo Borrachinha Costa. Hopefully he's sober this time. He wants to fight in the middleweight division. Dana White and the UFC don't want him to fight in the middleweight division. They want him to move up to light heavyweight. He's protesting that massively. And I reckon they are going to let him fight back in the middleweight division because he's made middleweight before a couple of times in his career, a lot of times in his career. The only time he's really missed weight was this last one, but even then, it was such an egregious weight miss, so I understand why the UFC don't want to risk putting him on like a main event of a fight night or something like that, but Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa can go on the main card of International Fight Week's pay-per-view card. Maybe Adesanya's in the main event doing a trilogy against Whittaker, or even just fighting the winner of Cannonier versus Brunson, which takes place next weekend. And I reckon they should do Sean Strickland, Paulo Costa in the middleweight division. Is a good matchup. I really like the matchup. I like the press conference idea. I like that they would be at a press conference with maybe Israel Adesanya and another fighter in the middleweight division as well, whoever he might be taking on, whether it's a trilogy with Whittaker or the winner of Cannonier versus Brunson. Just having these two at a press conference together in a pay-per-view event would sell that pay-per-view an extra, I'd say, 20k pay-per-view buys, just purely by those two being at the press conference to entertain us with their high degrees of autism. I'd like to see Strickland versus Paulo Costa next. I know Paulo Costa's coming off a loss and Strickland's coming off a win, but technically, if you want to get real technical here, Paulo Costa's coming off a win in the middleweight division, and so is Sean Strickland. He didn't lose in the middleweight division. He's still a top-ranked contender. You don't want to just remove a top-ranked contender and chuck him into another division, because then everyone else gets jumped up, and you get like this not very genuine sense of a division, because everyone's just been jumped up to a division or a position in the division that they don't really belong in. But either way, Paulo Costa, I think, should stay in the middleweight division, figure out his weight cut, because he's got the arms of a T-Rex. I don't see him doing too great in the light heavyweight division, but saying that, I don't mind his chances against Glover Teixeira, as crazy as it sounds. I reckon Strickland versus Paulo Costa should be the next matchup that gets made at middleweight. And I just like the fact that the schedule works out. Paulo Costa lost his last fight. He's going to need some time off. I reckon you bring back Paulo Costa, maybe again International Fight Week, and do him versus Strickland. Perfect matchup. Yeah. That's what I think should be next. And you say, hey, Sean Strickland, if you beat Paulo Costa, you get a title shot. Hey, Paulo Costa, if you beat Sean Strickland, we'll give you the loser of Adesanya versus Whittaker. Or something like that could happen. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if Whittaker loses, they could do Whittaker versus Costa for a title shot. Something like that. Or maybe like, I don't know actually. Could they do that? I don't think they'd give Whittaker a trilogy immediately if he lost twice to Israel Adesanya. The middleweight division is a mess right now, so let's clear up the mess with a high dose of autism with Strickland versus Costa. An amazing fight. It could well headline a fight night. I just don't think the UFC is going to trust Paulo Costa to do that. So let's make that matchup next. I think Strickland's best chance would be to get a 5-rounder against Paulo Costa, and hopefully Costa slows down as the fight goes on. But if you're Paulo Costa, after watching that last performance by Sean Strickland, he looks beatable. So if I was Paulo Costa and I was looking for a winnable matchup in the top 5 of the middleweight division, I'm looking at Sean Strickland. So I think that's what he's going to want to do next. And I think that's the matchup they should make next. Moving on to the loser of the main event, Jack Hermansson lost a fight against Sean Strickland. I reckon he should take on a guy who's also coming off a loss in the middleweight division in Darren Till, who recently re-injured himself trying to rush back to UFC London in March against Uriah Hall. So he's going to be out for an extra few months, I would assume. And maybe they should do Darren Till, Jack Hermansson, also at that pay-per-view event in the International Fight Week in July. Jack Hermansson coming off a loss at middleweight. Darren Till also coming off a loss at middleweight. I know this doesn't make the most sense in the world, because does Darren Till deserve another chance to jump up the rankings? But what I'm saying is, we're in a time right now in the UFC where contenders are really picking and choosing who they think they deserve to fight next, and there's a real problem right now with actually getting fights made in the top 10 of each division. So when I see that Jack Hermansson and Darren Till have seen the matchups that they each possess for each other and wanted that fight before, because this fight has been made before and they both said yes originally to have this fight, I believe back all the way in UFC London on another year or something like that. But either way, Jack Hermansson, Darren Till, they were willing to fight each other before. Why wouldn't they be willing to fight each other again? And also, if you're Darren Till, after watching Jack Hermansson's performance against Strickland, they both look quite beatable. So why wouldn't you also want that matchup? I think that's a perfect one to make. They're both European. That could be in London or just a UK-themed event. Maybe that Paddy Pimblett wins at UFC London and has a massive moment and blows up even more in terms of popularity, and they want to do a UFC Liverpool. Jack Hermansson's from Scandinavia, Sweden, Norway, pretty close to the UK geographically, so that'd be a great matchup to have there. Hermansson's also fought at a bunch of Cage Warriors events, so maybe if Pimblett wins at UFC London, they want to turn him right around for like a July fight night, UFC Fight Night Liverpool, Darren Till, Jack Hermansson as the main event, Paddy Pimblett versus someone else in the co-main event. That'd be a perfect situation. Jack Hermansson, Darren Till, they wanted to fight each other before, and if I'm looking at people that don't want to fight this guy, and I want to fight that guy, and I don't want to fight that guy, but he doesn't want to fight me, but I want to fight him. It's too much going on right now. The fact that they've both accepted it before is enough for me as a matchmaker, imaginarily, in my own brain, to want to make this matchup happen, because it saves me time. They both want to fight each other, so let's have them fight each other real soon, July, something like that. Moving on to another matchup that I feel would make a lot of sense after the co-main event of Nick Maximov versus Punahele Soriano. You may notice there's a few people on this video screen right now that aren't here, that you may have expected to be here. A couple of Ultimate Fighter fighters that maybe should have been on this video that aren't quite here. That's because they're around the perimeter. Nick Maximov won in the co-main event, and I reckon he should look to take on a guy by the name of Bryan, the winner of the Ultimate Fighter, which took place last night, really, if you know about the history of Sean Gore versus Bryan supposed to be being made, and it didn't end up happening. So Bryan was sort of awarded the Ultimate Fighter trophy by beating a guy that Sean Gore slept in the second round in Gilbert Urbina. But these two, they're both middleweights. They're both on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. 2-0. Let's put them against each other. I'd like to see how Bryan deals with a good grappler in Nick Maximov. And I'd like to see how Nick Maximov deals with a good pace setter in Bryan as well. So I think this is a perfect matchup to make in the middleweight division. Let's get it going. I think it makes all the sense in the world, and I'd like to look forward to it. Really good one. 2 fights on a similar schedule as well, which is a big deal again, as I said. They both won on the same card. They both took a little bit of damage that they're going to need to recover from. Bryan got a really bad eye. Nick Maximov also has a bad eye and a cut over his nose. So they're both going to be out, I reckon, for 4 or 5 months. We're not looking at a 3-month turnaround here, but we're not looking at a 6-month layoff. I reckon 4 or 5 months for both of them. Turn them back around, maybe in August or something like that, or not August, let's say July, fight night, feature fight ever fight night. Nick Maximov, Bryan perfect matchup in the middleweight division, makes all the sense in the world to me, and similar schedules as well. Now, Punahele Soriano lost in the co-main event of this fight night against Nick Maximov. Very close fight, so I think he should take on. Now, I'm going to give you guys a jump scare warning here. Oh my god, sorry. I wasn't prepared for it myself. It's Sean Gore. Punahele Soriano, Sean Gore, both lost on the same card. Both just got basically like damaged over 3 rounds to a loss. Not really in the case of Punahele Soriano. He got more controlled. Weird scoring, but it looked like Maximov should have won those last 2 rounds. Either way, it's weird, isn't it, really? Weird scoring in MMA, but Sean Gore, Lost also in the fight against Bryan Battle. Very clearly lost. Got pieced up in the first round and lost the third round very closely as well. But lost that third round very clearly. Pinelli Soriano, Tresean Gore. Loser goes home. Winner stays on in the middleweight division. Similar schedules. Turn them back around in 4 months. Bring them back in. Prelims of International Fight Week. Early prelims. Open up the card with Pinelli Soriano, Tresean Gore. And I also think it's good matchup-wise for both of them. Like, yeah, sure. Pinelli Soriano, you've had some trouble with grapplers. You lost to Nick Maximov. He grappled you the entire time. Also, Tresean Gore got out-volumed on the feet. And Battle was moving backwards and not really trading too much in the pocket. So why not get 2 guys that do what each other want to do? Pinelli Soriano wants to trade in the pocket. So does Tresean Gore with big power. So put them against each other, and that way there's no excuse for, they put me against grapplers, and that's why I lost. Let's put them against a fight that they want to fight, and let's make that fight happen. Loser goes home, winner stays on. I don't think they'll keep Tresean Gore if he loses again, because he'll be 4-2 as a professional record, which is pretty bad. So let's do Pinelli Soriano, Tresean Gore, perfect matchup in the middleweight division. Moving on to the welterweight division in the feature fight, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, just destroyed Carlston Harris with that wheel kick in the first round. Had some problems with the grappling, but he got the spinning back kick to the body. Carlston Harris thought it was going to the body again with a spinning back kick. It was a wheel kick this time. Puts down Carlston Harris in the first round and finishes him off with ground and pound to a performance bonus. He took no damage whatsoever again, other than some maybe nasty foot stomps from Carlston Harris, but turn him right back around against Randy Brown in the welterweight division. I think this is a perfect matchup. Randy Brown was recovering until recently from a broken toe that he received in a Jared Gooden fight. He'll now be ready to get back in there, I'm sure. So in 3 months' time, 4 months' time, let's do Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Randy Brown. They're both in a similar position in the welterweight division as well. Top 25, top 30. The winner of this one's going to have earned a shot against a ranked opponent, in my opinion. Randy Brown, of course, has failed his ranked opponent test against guys like Vicente Luque in the past. But let's make Shavkat Rakhmonov, Randy Brown, perfect matchup, in my opinion. So let's get it going. Both tall, rangy strikers. We'll see what happens in that cage. Randy Brown's very good. A big test for Shavkat Rakhmonov. And if Randy Brown wants to prove that he's ready for a ranked opponent again, he's going to have to take on a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov and prove it. So perfect matchup. Winner gets a ranked opponent in the welterweight division. I think is a natural career progression for both of them. Moving on to another fight that took place. Brendan Allen slept Sam Alvey. First with the punches, then with a rear naked choke. And I reckon his next opponent should be a guy who also should be on this video. Chidi Njokuani, who got a big first round KO win over Marc-Andre Barriault on the prelims of that very same card. And I think both of these guys, with their impressive performances where they didn't take too much damage, should meet each other back in the middleweight division. I don't see Brendan Allen staying at light heavyweight. Let's move him back down to middleweight. Make this Chidi Njokuani fight. I think it's the perfect matchup to make right now, and I'd like to look forward to it. It's a good one. Both guys got power in their hands. Both guys slug it out and have amazing fights. Feature fight position of a fight night. Let's make this fight happen. Brendan Allen, Chidi Njokuani, and both didn't take any damage. Similar schedules, no damage. Chidi Njokuani's going to want to enjoy his paycheck that he just received. He would have earned probably like, 12 for 12, plus Venom bonus, plus 50k for the performance bonus as well. So that's a lot of money for him to get. I'm sure he's going to enjoy that for a little bit. Brendan Allen's going to recover a tiny bit. He did take a couple of big shots off Sam Alvey. But let's get them both back in there soon. And also, Chidi Njokuani, I know you might say, it's a bit too much too soon for him. He's old. He's 33. We ain't got time to wait around. And also, Marc-Andre Barriault was a top 35, top 30 middleweight. So it is going to jump Chidi Njokuani quite high up those unranked rankings. And I think putting him against Brendan Allen would be a perfect test to see who's ready to go back into the rankings of the middleweight division or reach the rankings in the first place in the case of Chidi Njokuani. So I think perfect matchup at middleweight. Brendan Allen, Chidi Njokuani, make that matchup happen. Moving on to the featherweight division, Hakeem Dawodu got a big win over Mike Trezano on the prelims, and I reckon his next opponent should be a guy who also won on that same card in the featherweight division, Juicy Julian Erosa. Perfect matchup, in my opinion, in the featherweight division. Dawodu, Erosa, both won around the same time. Both went to a decision. Now, Erosa did take a bit more damage, but he didn't seem like he wanted to take a long time off after this one, although he might want to take a little bit of time off. We'll see how that goes. I reckon International Fight Week prelims, Dawodu, Erosa kicks off the prelims of the card. Not the early prelims, the prelims. Kick us off. Start open the prelim area with Hakeem Dawodu versus Julian Erosa. I think it's a great matchup. They're both similarly ranked in the welterweight division, or the featherweight division, sorry. And if they win, they're both going to be looking at a ranked opponent next. They're in a similar position. Similar in the rankings, and similar in the fact that they need that one more big win against a decent name that's going to put them into that conversation to get a ranked opponent next. So I think Dawodu, Arosa, perfect matchup. I know Dawodu took a little bit less damage, but he's younger. He can afford to take maybe 4 or 5 months off next coming up. Let's do that matchup next. Dawodu, Arosa, International Fight Week pay-per-view, or maybe like the start of August, end of July fight night card. We'll see what happens. But Dawodu versus Arosa, in my opinion, is a great matchup and guaranteed for entertainment as well, which is what we want at the end of the day. And also a winnable matchup for Dawodu, which is also what we kind of want as well, because he's more marketable. Moving on to another fight on that card. Jailton Almeida got a huge win. Oh my god, this freak. Future champ Jailton Almeida got a big win over Danilo Marquez, and I reckon his next matchup in the light heavyweight division, and I'm so sorry to the Polish fan base out there, it's one of your own boys, and he's going to have to die for our happiness. Sorry, Marcin Prachnio. Your time has come, okay? Sorry, Brad Tavares of the light heavyweight division. It's time for you to face another prospect, and this time it's going to be Jailton Almeida. Goodbye, Marcin Prachnio. You've had a very nice time in the UFC, and also on human earth, living amongst us. You must now face the ultimate test of your will and your dedication against the monster that is Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida is going to jump up the rankings a little bit. Marcin Prachnio is still quite low down the rankings. Hasn't beat the best of opponents in his last 2 wins. Khalil Roundtree, who's somewhat good but not highly ranked, and also Ike Villanueva. Let's put him against Jailton Almeida. Again, I'm sorry, Marcin Prachnio, but you aren't a big name. You're boring, and in my opinion, the matchmakers are going to look at you and think, we could do without him. We pay him quite a bit of money. He doesn't bring us any attention. He's not a big name. Let's get rid of him by giving him to Jailton Almeida. Perfect matchup, in my opinion, at light heavyweight. Get that matchup done immediately. Moving on to another fight that should take place. Philip Rowe got a big win over Jason Witt in the welterweight division, in the prelims as well. And I reckon that Philip Rowe should be looking at a matchup against a man by the name of Michael Morales. And let's get it done soon as well. Philip Rowe took 0 damage, got out-grappled a little bit and got hit with a couple of decent shots. But other than that, it's not like he was getting pounded out and has cuts all over him and needs time to recover from concussions or anything like that. He got a TKO in the second round. I didn't notice that he took any injury whatsoever. And also, Michael Morales is going to want a little bit of time off. But let's turn these guys around immediately. In the May pay-per-view card, which is a Brazilian, Southern American themed card, let's do Michael Morales versus Philip Rowe. Michael Morales could be on that card amongst the other Brazilians and South Americans. Maybe you could try and get Marlon Vera on that card, but it might be too stacked, and we don't want that because, as you've seen with the recent pay-per-views of the UFC, if there's one thing they don't want them to be, it's stacked, because they're all fucking terrible recently. But either way, Philip Rowe, Michael Morales, perfect matchup in my opinion. Turn Philip Rowe right back around against Michael Morales and see if he really is about it in that welterweight division. I think that's a great matchup. Perfect stuff. That's all the matchups you should make after UFC Vegas 47. Thank you for watching the video. That's that. And also, do you like the microphone? The lighting, is it good? I think everything's good now. I think we've actually established a very nice setup for myself here. Hopefully the microphone sounds good. I have no idea how it sounds, so let me know. Actually, give me a review of the setup if you've made it to the end of the video. And if you have made it to the end of the video, well done for sticking it out till the end. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. That's every fight to make. Get a move on, Sean Shelby. We ain't got time to waste. Toodle pip.